You saw the title of this video, so let's not waste any more time and discuss everything great about this recent season of Survivor that is just finished, Survivor 47. Firstly, let's talk about the pre-merge, which I'm honestly going to be investing a distressing amount of this video covering because, against all odds, Survivor 47 actually had a really good pre-merge. It's not the best I've ever seen, as I felt the TK and Annika boots were pretty predictable with well-telegraphed setup, but if you told me before this season I would genuinely call this a really strong pre-merge, I would have laughed you out of my room. And then asked you why on earth you followed me to my Northern Irish home. But this pre-merge was fantastic, so I reluctantly have to give Modern Survivor producers their roses. After watching the Keyshawn Blindside, I immediately rewatched the episode again because it was so good, and the last time that happened to me was the Sandra boot in Winners at War. That being said, I have to credit this pre-merge's excellence to the casting choices of Andy, Genevieve and Rome that completely ate the season. While Andy and Genevieve have more longevity, I'm so thankful Rome was casted on this season, providing the first true villain in Modern Survivor. I know I'm a Survivor YouTuber and I'm not supposed to pick favourites, but Rome is my favourite. CBS needs to clone this man and put him on every future Survivor season. Now! Additionally, I'm really thankful to see Sweat vs Savvy not on this season, and I know some of you only realised it was gone because I mentioned it, which shows how irrelevant of a twist this was in the first place. I get the whole idea of having to quote-unquote earn items and how it would be appealing to production, but the trials didn't translate to good TV. The puzzles were straight up extremely hard to follow. Moreover, the Sweat trial took literal hours of filming and editing only for, what, less than a minute of content when edited on the show. Due to the physical challenge being something done the exact same back and forth, it was hard to make it stand out for the viewers. The trial TK and Asia had to compete in had some minor flaws, don't get me wrong, but it was much better than Sweat vs Savvy. It seemed more time efficient for production on the island, was a lot easier for the viewer to digest, and honestly was just far more engaging. I think this is also the best version of the Beware advantage we've seen. It combines aspects of Survivor 45 and 46's Beware advantages in a surprisingly fluid end product. Essentially, contestants have to go on a segmented treasure hunt for keys to a locked box. The first key unlocks the padlock, but reveals a twist. Contestants can either restore their votes for a lesser idol, or go on another hunt for a better idol, while yet again sacrificing their votes. Unfortunately, in this season, I don't think this Beware advantage twist was fully realised, due to Rome and Sam taking the one round idol, whereas Game extended his, but still ended up playing it at the first tribal. It feels more like a refined version of the previous season's Beware advantage, and if you've watched my video talking about every issue of Survivor 46, you'll know I really didn't like the fact you had to wait until your tribe lost to continue the trial. Now contestants had the choice to gamble in the scavenger hunt or take the guaranteed short-term immunity. All scavenger hunts were different too, avoiding repetition, like with Survivor 41 to 44's hidden immunity idols. For example, Gabe had to smash driftwood to obtain his, whereas Rome had to pour water over a rock to uncover a secret message. Oh, and quick side note, Rome jumping headfirst into the tribe's well to get the Beware advantage key is easily one of my favourite Modern Survivor moments.
I feel so bad I have to drink this.
It feels so difficult.
It's taken 7 seasons, but finally I think production has found a Beware idol format that I have minimal issues with and genuinely wouldn't mind seeing as the mainstay format for upcoming Beware advantages. Just anything but the secret phrases. Anything but that.
Broccoli grows little bunches on small trees, so I feel like a little broccoli tree, I guess.
Like we said about broccoli.
On the topic of Survivor 42, we also had the return of the caught red-handed twist, which I always do like seeing, even though I understand why it's so sparsely used. Sue was a far more careless presence than Drea, so seeing her having to hide the pot and getting caught by her tribe mates made for good TV. That being said, I am a bit disappointed the Beware advantages are only exclusive to the first pre-merge idol. For instance, Gabe had to trek across the entire island for an idol that lasted 2 rounds, while Sue's idol that was put into the environment only required the pot smash and lasted until the final 5. A very big disparity. That being said, it would be hard for production to implement 3 new locations for the new Beware idol. It's either you pick the same locations as the previous one, which would greatly favour the same person if they found the idol last time, or production spends time and resources planning a new Beware Advantage hunt for a pre-merge idol, only for someone like Sam to keep his for the entire pre-merge. It's definitely a hard toss-up, but something I'd like to see addressed, as I think we can all agree the tasks Rachel plus Sue had to do for fully powered idols were far less than Sam's, Rome's, or Gabe's timed idols. This season also had really strong editing. Supposedly, I've heard in the grapevine there was a new head of editing for this season, and if so, it really shows. There were a lot of unique editing decisions which made for some very memorable moments. Like it or not, but it's the good editing that really accentuates scenes, such as What About Genevieve montage, the Andy and Rachel flashbacks, Gabe and Genevieve firing off confessionals back to back before the final 9 tribal, and honestly just the entirety of Operation Italy. As we've learned from Survivor 46, buffed episode lengths in a 26-day format can lead to really underwhelming pre-merges with a lot of forced filler. That being said, this season's pre-merge flowed a lot better. The Annika versus Sam dynamic was a little repetitive, but apart from that I didn't have any gripes with the pre-merge. In fact, I also have to applaud the ballsy choice for not even hiding Rome as the merge boot. In practically every modern Survivor episode, a secondary boot was always established, even in situations you knew logically a person was a write-off. I mean, in Survivor 41, we all knew Ricard was being voted out, and he was objectively the biggest threat in the game, but they had to try to make it seem like Xander could still play as idol for him. This pre-merge was the entire downfall of Rome, explicitly detailing why he would eventually be booted throughout the entire episode, and about half the voting confessionals were people mocking him. I'm sure the temptation was there to try and put some time investment into maybe Rome getting the numbers against Saul or an Andy blindside, but I appreciate how unique this final pre-merge episode is in just showing the House of Cards falling down for one individual. I know I'm going to sound like a broken record because really I say this every video, but yet again this new schooled casting has been on a roll with another incredible cast. In fact, I really think this is my favourite cast of the modern format. All other 6 seasons have really strong casts overall, but I always feel there's 1 or 2 individuals that are kinda meh. Not this cast. Even under-edited contestants like Saul, Kyle or Caroline have their time to shine, and every contestant on this cast I can at least recall 3 memorable things about them, which is a pretty good litmus test for a strong set of contestants. We also had noticeably less STEM representation, which was good considering just how bloated the past 6 casts were with these individuals. Instead, there was a surprising amount of individuals in the commentary community, such as radio hosts or podcasters. I would have liked maybe more of a spread of these jobs between this season and the next season, but if I had to pick between an overrepresentation of STEM jobs or more commentary jobs than usual, every day of the week I'm taking the latter. At least having lots of commentators on the cast should make for good confessionals. I also never thought I would do this, but I'm gonna shout out Jeff. I know he and I don't seemingly see eye to eye on a lot of modern Survivor ideologies, as well as the fact he does get bashed on a lot of the community, mostly for good reason. That being said, I think we all have to collectively show some appreciation for Survivor host Jeff Probst. Especially in this day and age, it's hard to find a show host so clearly in love with the program they're a part of. Let's be real, most present on the show, collect their paycheck, and never think about it again until a new season starts up. Jeff is clearly in love with his franchise and is extremely passionate about it, both on as well as off camera, so I think it's really cool and props to him. Bandit being nice to Jeff Probst, I know, it's not even 2025 yet, and I'm already exercising a new year, new me mindset. I previously shouted out everything wrong with Survivor 46, my video, and I'm also going to be shouting out everything wrong with Survivor 45, but I have my reasons. In that video I talked about the need for meat-free options due to the increasing number of vegans or vegetarians casted on Survivor. I cited Kendra as an example where she won a reward with Bruce and Julie that was literally just a roasted chicken, and of course she was vegetarian. From what we saw on camera, she ate barely any of the chicken and seemed to dislike the experience, making it seem like an antonym to the quote-unquote reward. This was one of my most controversial statements, with quite a few people in the comments saying it's Survivor and it's supposed to be hard, or I was making an issue out of nothing, and to those people, I think you missed the point in that part of the video last year. Being forced to compromise morals or starve doesn't sound like a reward at all, particularly because compromising your morals is filmed in front of millions. Innately this makes rewards rather exclusionary, as sometimes a reward may not have had actual food items you feel comfortable eating. In that case, you're less inclined to give it your all in the challenge, as you're basically overexerting yourself for nothing. Imagine a Jewish contestant being told a reward challenge was for pork. You would understand if they felt excluded by that, were disheartened, and ultimately didn't try as hard in the individual or team challenge. All of this is a really roundabout way for me to actually praise Survivor 47 production for adding a veggie dog to the hot dog social hour reward for the vegetarian contestant Kyle. I'm sure this was because production saw, or at least heard about my criticism in Survivor 45, because 1, I was the only one kicking up a stink about this arbitrary issue, or number 2, I actually know they watched the video because they manually copyright claimed the video. I gave you my homework free of charge, CBS, and then you came around and still took my lunch money. Into my Northern Irish Monopoly money I shall cry. But it's cool seeing CBS making this change. I hope it lasts, and even seeing them dedicating a confessional to Kyle celebrating seeing a veggie dog on the show very much felt like CBS telling myself and others, hey look, we actually made this change.
With some dogs?
Oh, the vegan dog!
What? No way! And there is a veggie dog even.
I tip my hat to you all, Survivor alumni. Now I know people will say Kyle got secret wings under his dish at the auction, but at that point you're potentially removing all meat options for vegan options, which would actually exclude other contestants that wanted meat to fuel their starving bodies. I suppose hypothetically the chefs could create vegan alternatives to every meat dish so that there's more options, but at that point in the budget era of Survivor, do you really think they're going to do that? Having a meat-based reward and tossing in an extra vegan item for a vegan or vegetarian reward winner is definitely enough for me. However, I also talked about the Survivor 45 auction, wishing we had items hidden in food, and lo and behold, this was another fantastic addition to the show, but of course I'm going to say that I suggested it. Throughout the history of the auction, outside of the occasional family items, it's been just for food or an advantage, so smarter casts like those on Cagayan or Worlds Apart never bid for food and instead held out to the very end for the advantage, kind of demeriting the fun aspect of the auction. Australian Survivor always did this twist of hiding advantages in food, and I'm so happy Survivor 47 took a page out of the book Down Under. Not only was the heist scene seeing Rachel having to sneak the idol clue into her pants without raising suspicion really good, additionally it was also a really healthy twist for future auctions, as now everyone holding out on the final advantage when Jeff announces it's the end of the auction. They all lose their money, and someone who bought an item 10 minutes ago got a reward snuck into their food. Honestly, I think this twist in and of itself fixes people holding out for an item at the end and encourages them to naturally bid in the auction, so maybe this twist might see the end of the new era Frankenstein lose your vote auction format that, as you all should know by now, I really don't like. But more on the issues with Survivor 47's auction in particular in this video's counterpart, everything wrong with Survivor 47.